7:10 now. Easter is the season when Christians celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, symbolizing redemption and new life. Now, it's also a de facto rite of spring. So regardless of faith, how do we each make this our season of a new and better life? Well, fortunately, I have a pastor and motivational speaker, Frank Santora, the author of Turn It Around, A Different Direction for a New Life, and he joins us right now. Now, you're the pastor of Faith Church in New Milford, a multicultural megachurch. I'm not even sure I know what that means exactly, but it sounds like it's very all-encompassing. What are you going to be preaching tomorrow?
I'm going to be talking about impossible when only a miracle will do.
Impossible when a miracle will do.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so many people in their lives face impossible situations that look like there's no hope, they feel hopeless, they've tried everything that they can humanly possible to change their situation. It's at times like that when only a miracle will do, divine intervention. And that's really what Easter is all about. It's about God being able to do the impossible.
Now, and I said this, maybe I overspoke, but it really is kind of regardless of faith too, because it seems to me that the redemption is something that, while an abstract concept, is something probably all of us can use a time or two in our lives, and maybe more encompassing than that, too.
Absolutely. You know, so many people face situations where they kind of are stuck in between two things in their lives. For instance, it's Saturday morning right now. The day before, we celebrate perhaps the greatest miracle ever, but the day after, perhaps the greatest tragedy ever. And so many people find themselves stuck in between the tragedy that has happened and the miracle that's yet to come in their lives. And so the question becomes, how do you overcome that kind of scenario in your life? And I think one of the takeaways that I teach in my book is that people need to not lose faith in the end of the story. Perhaps you've read about Admiral Jim Stockdale. He was captured during Vietnam, and he was tortured, imprisoned, beaten cruelly, and he finally got out. A lot of people didn't get out. A lot of people died. They asked him when he got out, he said, "How'd you make it?" He said, "I never lost faith in the end of the story." And he said, "I knew that this would be a defining moment in my life, to which," he said, "I wouldn't trade for anything in the world." And so what people have to realize is that they're in a story. They might not like the chapter of the book that they're on right now, but the end of the story has not yet come.
Our lives are a very small part of time, after all, isn't that right? And a couple of tips from your book. Can we throw those up on the screen? Because one of them has to do with forgiveness, right? Expecting forgiveness. Expecting forgiveness. Not just forgiving, but expecting to be forgiven.
Yeah, I think what happens in people's lives is that when we do things that are wrong, we expect that bad things are going to continue to happen. We expect punishment, especially from God. God's kind of got a bad rap out there. People think that he's waiting to get them. But what Easter is all about is that God wants to forgive us. God wants to release us. And I learned this from my mother. When I was a teenager, I had a girlfriend, and it was an expensive habit. My mom told me to go upstairs to her drawer one day, and I opened the drawer. She told me to get something. I saw a stack of $100 bills. I began to steal money from my mother. Finally, I got convicted, and I told my mother, I said, "Mom, I just got to let you know, for the last few months, I've been stealing $100 bills from you." I braced for punishment. My mom, she said, "I'm so disappointed." She said, "But I'm so glad you told me." She said, "All is forgiven." I said, "You don't want me to pay you back?" She said, "No, you don't have to pay me back, but just don't ever do it again." I braced for punishment. My mom gave me forgiveness. The same is true of God. That's really what Easter is all about. It's about the fact that God wants to forgive us. And when we accept forgiveness in our life, it frees us. When we brace for punishment, it stifles us in life. And I think that's one of the great messages that anybody can take away from Easter.
That's true, and I would think that even if somebody's an atheist or an agnostic, if you've ever forgiven or been forgiven, that is a divine feeling experience unto itself, isn't it?
Nothing like it in all the world. Who wants to wallow in self-pity? I don't know if you remember the Peanuts cartoon strip.
Yeah.
You know, Lucy, there's one where she's kind of trying to catch a fly ball. She always misses him. So finally she says to Charlie Brown, "I'm going to catch it this time. I'm going to catch it this time." And so she lines it up. It looks like she's going to catch it. And then all of a sudden at the last minute, it drops again. She goes into the mound. She says to Charlie Brown, she said, "I thought I had it." She said, "But the past got in my eyes." You see, forgiveness is so wonderful because it removes the past from getting in our eyes, and it allows us to catch those fly balls, to be everything that God's created us to be. It's wonderful. It's an experience that we all deserve, and it's an experience that we all should give to other people, because if we expect forgiveness, we ought to be able to give that away.
Yeah, and not to be a naysayer about God, but because I happen to believe in God, but for those who might not too, you know, we might not acknowledge that God or a God is in control, but I think it's easy enough to acknowledge that we certainly aren't in control individually. So of a lot of things in our lives. We can make plans, and to bring God back into it, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
I think that's awesome.
Right?
You ought to be a preacher.
I don't know if I should be, but I do. I find this very interesting and very engaging a topic, and I'm sure a lot of people want to read your book. Now, we also have a theater production that we have pictures of. Can we show those? I want to see what these things are all about, because we have this first picture. Let's see. This is Roman soldiers, is that right?
Yeah, this was the production that we performed last Sunday at our church. It was a celebration of the resurrection, and this is one of the tomb scenes here where the Roman soldiers are guarding the tomb, and it was a terrific reenactment. We have some great services this weekend at our church. We have 6 of them going on. People can go online and find out when they are and just get an inspiring message, maybe if they're facing those impossible situations in their life.
Who couldn't use more inspiration?
Absolutely.
You never have too much. That show called Artifacts, by the way, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, well, Pastor Frank Santorth, turn it around, a different direction for a new life. Thank you very much for being with us. And for more, you can log on to our website, WTNH.com, and click on the Good Morning Connecticut Weekend section. So easy, and it costs nothing.